Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Literary Canon. I thought I'd hop on today just to talk about the last book I finished, which is The Talented Mr. Ripley by Patricia Highsmith. But before I do that, I thought I'd show you what I've been reading and some of the books I actually picked up today at Goodwill. So first of all, I have been chugging through Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. This has been excellent so far. The characters are incredible. They're very believable as real human beings. Larry McMurtry's writing makes the story flow really easily. It's not a super, I don't know. It's definitely a plot-based book, but the character work is very good. I feel like I know the characters all really well. I love most of the characters. Not Jake Spoon, he's a jerk. But most of the characters are awesome. And today I actually cracked the halfway mark. So I'm on page 419. Actually, I guess I'm not quite halfway through, but might as well be. I'm on page 419 out of page 800, or out of 850-ish pages. His writing, even though it's a long book, the writing just makes it flow, and you could get through 15, 20 pages before you even know it. So, yes, really been enjoying this. I hope to have it finished by the end of the month. It's been great. And then today at Goodwill, I picked up a couple books since they're pretty cheap there. The first one is The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Carson McCullers. This was recommended to me after I finished Wise Blood by Flannery O'Connor, because this is another Southern Gothic novel written by a woman. She was actually only 23 when she published this, so I'm excited to start this. I don't know when I'll get to it, but I'm excited for it. I've been kind of on a Shakespeare kick lately, reading a lot of the monologues online, watching videos of performances, and recently I ordered a couple plays. I ordered The Tempest, I ordered King Lear, and I ordered Macbeth. Last year I read Hamlet, so I'm kind of rounding out the tragedies, the major tragedies. I know I have a lot more to read, but I thought I'd round those out. The Tempest is not one of the tragedies, as far as I'm aware, but King Lear and Macbeth certainly are. But today, I ordered I ordered the Pelican Shakespeare versions, which are the ones that Penguin publishes. And today in Goodwill, I saw Henry IV, Part 1, in the same edition as the other ones I ordered. So I thought I might as well pick it up. So I don't even really know what this one is about. I know this has the character Falstaff, who I think most people say is one of Shakespeare's best characters. But other than that, I have no idea what it's about. So I'm excited to read this. Probably that'll come after the other ones that I ordered. And then I also picked up The Once and Future King by T.H. White, which I know is a novel about King Arthur and the Arthurian legend. So very excited to read this as well. All right, now for The Talented Mr. Ripley by Patricia Highsmith. This was amazing, probably one of the top 3 novels I've read this year. I really loved it. I would say if you are someone who has not read a book in a long time, maybe it's been years, even decades, I would say this book is the one you should read to get you back into reading. It's relatively short. I think it's only about, it's almost 300 pages, just a little under 300 pages. So it's relatively short. It's a very entertaining story. Patricia Highsmith's writing makes the story flow really well, but the best part about it is the characters, especially the character of Tom Ripley himself, who is, of course, the main character. Tom Ripley is sort of a con artist, nobody who's living in New York. And what he's doing, actually, he's writing letters to people he claims as victims, saying that he is an IRS agent and they're being audited and they need to send money to the IRS office that he's supposed to be associated with, except he just uses his apartment address as where they should send the money. But the thing is, when they send the checks, he never cashes them. He just keeps them on hand, sort of like as a memento of his handiwork. He is definitely quite. He's a bit sociopathic. He's a very charming character. He's very charismatic. And what happens, the way the novel opens, is Tom Ripley is at a bar and he notices an older man watching him. He leaves the bar, and this older man continues to follow him. Tom goes to another bar, and he thinks it's a police detective. He thinks they finally caught up with him for running these IRS scams, and he eventually just takes a seat, and the older man joins him. And it turns out the older man is the father of someone who Tom used to know, named Dickie Greenleaf, or Richard Greenleaf. I believe the father's name... Oh, pause while I look for his name. Excuse me. The father's name is Herbert Greenleaf, and the Greenleafs actually run essentially a ship manufacturing company. So they are very well off, very rich people. They live on Long Island in New York. But Herbert sits down with Tom Ripley. He's not actually a police detective. And Herbert is under the impression that Tom is much closer friends with Dickie Greenleaf than they actually were. And Dickie has gone off to Italy and is kind of, in Herbert's eyes, wasting his life away. Dickie is supposedly painting over in Italy. He lives in a small little coastal town. And Herbert really wants Tom to go over to Italy and try to bring Dickie back home to New York. Dickie's mom has cancer, and it seems like it's getting worse. And at first, Tom is a little reluctant, but he realizes this is sort of an opportunity for himself to kind of get out of this low place he's in. He's not satisfied with his life. He doesn't really know who he is, and he wants to use this as an opportunity to become somebody. If you know anything about the story, that's a potential spoiler. This is sort of a discussion review. I think I will talk about spoilers. So if this sounds interesting at all to you, be wary of that. But it's hard to talk about this book, I think, without mentioning the big plot point. And it only happens about halfway through. I won't spoil everything, but I will talk about this major plot point. So essentially, Tom charms him. He's like, yeah, I'm super close with Dickie. Yeah, I can get him back to New York. Herbert provides a bunch of funds for Tom to travel over on a steamer. This is set, I think, post-war. I think it's in the 1950s. And it is important to know that Tom and Dickie are both pretty young. I think they're 25, which is actually the same age I am now. So Tom sails across the Atlantic. He kind of escapes his boring life. He gets to Italy, and he makes his way over to the small little coastal town that Dickie is living in. And he goes down to the beach, and he finds Dickie there with a girl named Marge, who's around their age. Marjorie Sherwood, I believe is her name. She's also another rich American, kind of spending her time in Italy. And Tom just becomes infatuated with Dickie Greenleaf. Sort of like he wants to be so close to him. He wants to be friends with him. He sees Dickie as someone he wants to be like, but he can't quite make it to that. He can't get himself to be like Dickie in the way he wants to be, and he can't really get Dickie to accept him. Dickie kind of pushes him away at every opportunity. They do become close friends. Tom tells him that Herbert wants Dickie to travel home, and at first Dickie's put off by that, and then Tom says, well, hey, he gave me all this money. Why don't we just waste it and spend it all on having a good time? And that actually gets Dickie to be friends with Tom, but he still kind of keeps Tom at arm's length. He's not quite sure how he feels about him. And while all of this is happening, Marge is also infatuated with Dickie, and Marge is truly in love with Dickie romantically. With Tom and Dickie, there's a little bit of, definitely, there's some homoerotic insinuation, especially with the name Dickie Greenleaf, but Marge is truly in love with Dickie. However, Dickie does not reciprocate that love. And Marge starts to think that Tom is pulling Dickie away from her, and that Tom is no good for Dickie. So there's tension there. So Tom is in this small little town for months and months, living with Dickie. Marge has a separate house there, but they're doing what Americans do in Italy. They're going off to Rome, and they're having drinks, and they're sitting by the ocean side, just relaxing. They go out on Dickie's yacht. They go swimming. Dickie is trying his hand at painting, and Dickie is also, according to Tom, not very good at painting. And all of this comes to a head. All this tension between the three comes to a head when Tom and Dickie travel to another small coastal town to have kind of a day out, and they rent a small motorboat. And Tom actually premeditates this, but what he decides he's going to do, he decides this on the train ride there, is while they're on the motorboat, Tom is going to murder Dickie and assume his identity. Now, obviously, he's not assuming his identity in a way that Marge is going to see Tom and say, oh, that's Dickie. But he is going to murder Dickie. Then this is the big spoiler. Murder Dickie. Take all his clothes. Take his things. He's going to go back to their coastal town, and he's going to tell Marge that Dickie decided to move to Rome, and that he sent Tom to sell the house and take what the remaining things he has back with him to Rome. And so he does that on the motorboat. He murders Dickie in this like very enraged fit of passion. Actually brains him with a paddle. I'm sorry, my cat is playing with this toy. Spoons. Good boy. Okay. Hey, hi. Okay, he doesn't want to be here. So he brains Dickie with a paddle, throws him overboard on the boat. He takes the boat back to the shore, farther away from where they took it from. He scuttles it. There's blood stains in the boat, but he sinks it in the water there, puts a bunch of rocks in it and sinks it. Not super deep, but deep enough to where no one's most likely going to see it for a while. And he gets back to their little town. He tells Marge exactly what he said he was going to do. He's gonna facilitate selling the home and bringing Dickie's items to Rome. And then he moves to Rome. At first he's living in a hotel room, and then he starts renting an apartment. And of course, people notice that. Well, first of all, Marge tries to come visit, and Dickie's not there, obviously, because Tom is pretending to be Dickie. So this whole time, Tom is going around Rome pretending to be Dickie, and really what's happening is he's pretending to be someone he isn't. I think there's a famous line, it's either from I know it's in the movie, I think it came from the book, where he says, I'd rather be a fake somebody than a real nobody. So he's going around Rome, schmoozing it up with people, going to parties. Marge notices that whenever Tom's there, Dickie's not there, so she starts to get very suspicious. And then, since Tom is spending so much time pretending to be Dickie, then the police think that Tom Ripley is actually the one missing, and they start an investigation for him. And then he realizes that he's in far over his head. So that's sort of the basic plot crash course. All that happens in about the first half, and the rest of the novel is Tom dealing with living this dual identity as both Tom Ripley and Dickie Greenleaf. It's such a good book. It's very psychological. Tom Ripley is certainly very insane. He's crazy, but you cannot help but root for him the whole time. I don't even know if he's evil, but he's so bad that you have to like him. And he just keeps getting away with it over and over and over again. And a lot of the time it's just luck. It's not even because of talent, unlike the title. It's just sheer luck that he manages to get away with it. But he is very, very, very good at being charismatic and smoothing things over with people and being very convincing with people. So this is a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. The movie, that I believe it came out in 1999, it stars Matt Damon as Mr. Ripley, as Tom Ripley, Jude Law as Dickie, Gwyneth Paltrow plays Marge, and then Cate Blanchett is a character in the movie who is not actually in the book, but they all did a fantastic job. And the late Philip Seymour Hoffman is also in the movie and was incredible. He's such a good actor. He plays a character who is friends with Dickie, and Tom kind of gets caught up trying to smooth things over with him as well after the murder of Dickie, and that gets out of hand. Great movie, loved it up until the last 10 minutes, which I thought ruined it. But the book is fantastic, and I love the book's ending. And as I understand it, she did write a few more Tom Ripley books. I think the next one is called Ripley Underground, where he's actually sort of living as an art dealer in Europe. But I really love this book. I know I mostly just gave plot, but plot exposition, but the characters are great. The writing is easy to read. It's easy to follow. It's just, overall, it's really fantastic. I highly recommend it. I appreciate it. Thank you all for listening. And hopefully I'll be back in another 2 weeks with a discussion for Lonesome Dove. Bye-bye.